Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. This is Kern Foltz along with Patrick Pohl, and we want to welcome you to today's webinar and a quick workshop. We're going to talk about creating email conversations that actually sell homes. We're going to walk you through some high level and some concepts and some strategies that you can implement immediately that enables you to take advantage of email conversations that actually work. I want to introduce you to Patrick Pohl, and he's the president of Your Realty Insider. We're extremely honored to be able to have about 30 to 45 minutes with Patrick today, walking through his expertise on how you can utilize email conversations to generate leads, to engage leads, and then continue relationships with them. So today's agenda, we're going to talk about the power of email marketing in real estate. It's actually not dying, and with the correct and proper approach, you can actually take advantage of utilizing email to continue relationships and continue conversations. We'll walk through a few examples of good emails to emulate, bad emails to avoid. We'll provide one person a $200 Amazon gift card. We'll have that drawing towards the end of today's webinar. We'll announce who that $200 Amazon gift card winner is. And then also we'll walk through how do you automate emails? What does actually email automation do for your business? And then we'll invite you to part two. Part two of today's webinar will be next Tuesday. We're going to focus on the how-tos. We'll actually kind of get into the weeds and walk you through what emails exactly to send based on different demographics. Throughout today's webinar, I encourage you to have a piece of paper, pen and pencil. I encourage you to pick up one or two concepts to start implementing in your business today to help you better grow and build and manage your business. And then throughout this webinar as well, we'll have open Q&A so you can take advantage of Patrick Poland's expertise. So Patrick, welcome. Thanks for being here today.
Good morning, Kerm. Good morning, everybody.
So let's talk a little bit about, so in 1983, you started your own design agency in San Francisco, and then you really focused for about, 20 years on direct advertising campaigns with Fortune 500 companies. Then you shifted your career and your business into online advertising, and then in 2005, you began focusing on and becoming the expert in regard to email. Effectiveness, being able to connect people with services and products. Tell us a little bit about your expertise and a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Kerm. Yeah, that's about right, and it's hard to remember back to 1983, but I appreciate you pointing that out to me. Hey, you know, the business that we're all in is communicating with other people, and the channels that we use to do that have changed. As everyone knows, that the internet revolution really did turn the world upside down. So if you're in the communications business, you just needed to look at these new channels, and by far email is the most effective and successful one, just in the business environment, but as well as in the personal environment space that agents work in when they're communicating with prospective buyers or sellers, as well as communicating with other people in their business. So you gotta have email, and you have to do it well. My experience is that it's an informal appearing medium, but what it really is it's putting your thoughts out there on paper in front of everybody. The paper may be a computer screen, but nevertheless, it's your ideas that matter. So you want to communicate them as clearly as possible, and you want to watch out for some things that you shouldn't do on email that you might be able to do conversationally in a telephone conversation or face-to-face meetings or in other channels. So I'm in love with email. I like the fact that you can get to somebody that you don't know and that they can begin to understand who you are, and you know, if you approach them people properly and present the value that you offer, you'll find strangers becoming friends and customers, and to me that's just a tremendous thing. You know, you could never do that in any other channel. So I think that's enough.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think it also is like one of the goals is, or one of the approaches is to take the approaches if it's a face-to-face conversation. So often agents forget about what are they trying to get across, or are they just touching base to touch base. So one of the things I put up here as a poll question is, what's your number one frustration when utilizing email in your business? Is it I very rarely get my emails returned? Is it that I'm not sure what content I should actually deliver? Or is it I wonder if they even received my email? And we'll talk about some of those concepts. But can you walk us through some of the traps, in your opinion, that real estate professionals fall into? I know you had earlier mentioned broadcasting versus a conversation, but what are some of the traps that you find that agents fall into when they attempt to utilize email in their business?
That's a great point, Carmen. And the idea of using email as a person-to-person communications medium, even though you may be sending hundreds of emails out, versus using it as a broadcast medium, which you would think you're doing when you're sending hundreds of emails out. But the reality is you're still talking to another person, an individual at the other side of that conversation. You just can't hear them or see them respond. But you've got to keep in mind that you want to keep it personal, informal but professional. And the thing of becoming too informal is a big risk for everybody in email. You can read stories in the newspaper almost every day about somebody's email got out and now they're embarrassed, right? So we all tend to have want to be a little more informal in email than we should be. So I think that's one thing to watch out for, is to remain professional at all times, but at the same time have a kind of warm approach to people when you're communicating with them, but don't assume anything about them until you know them better.
Yeah, and I think you also have to kind of predict what is the answer, what reply are you looking for? You know, often when you think about the approach or the content that you should put in the email, obviously the content has to be purposeful, but I think you should be able to easily predict several of the answers or replies that you're going to receive back. If not, it's probably not an appropriate or purposeful email to actually even send.
No, I completely agree with you. And, you know, what you're really doing is you're starting with the end in mind, right?
Yes.
This message is out, what do I want, and what do I expect, you know, A, B, and C, and how will I respond to those things? You're right on the mark there.
So if you see here on the poll question, it says like 55% of our audience today, Patrick, they're not sure what content to send. You're more of the expert. I think it could be where they're not sure who their audience is or their demographic that they're actually sending their, you know, they don't know who that audience is or who that person is on the other end of the receiving of the email. What also could it be when 55% of our audience isn't sure what content? What trap are they falling into?
Well, it's a little open-ended of a question, but content meaning, are you sending listing information? Are you sending pricing information? Do you want to include a lot of photographs? You know, do you want to ask questions? You know, it just depends on the situation. If it's a new prospect, somebody you don't know, you really have to introduce yourself and establish your professional credentials. Then you also want to communicate your interest, excitement, and enthusiasm in the real estate market, because that's why they're reaching out to you. And I think everyone should start out with the assumption that the person they're talking to wants to talk back to them, but they just want to provide them a reason to do that. So, you know, be professional. Send them some graphics. If you feel like you have a great listing, by all means include it, but don't make it all about the listing. Make sure that there's something personal about knowing the neighborhood and the community as well, and that represent, you know, your credentials and your office, your broker office. Let those people know that you're legitimate out there and that what you have is of value to them.
I think one of the key points you just said, I hope no one misses it, but your advice is to provide them even additional information to continue their thought process. So as opposed to just sending them one or two listings, provide them with more information about the market, the neighborhood, you know, inventory trends, some sort of analysis that continues to further their thinking in this entire process of buying and selling a home. So almost accelerating their timeline by providing them with more knowledge and demonstrating their expertise.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. That, you know, what you're doing is building a relationship. And the way you do that with friends in a social setting is you're polite to them. You know, you can entertain them a little bit. But you also, they find you useful. In a business relationship, is this something I need that can help me? And so nurture that relationship a little bit by communicating with them. What we call drip marketing in business, the business space, but really in the agent space, it's the same thing. People want to know that you're the person they want, and that if you keep in mind that these are buyers or sellers with needs, and that they're looking for somebody to represent them or work with them, you know, you want to be that person. So don't just stop with one email or two outreaches. Maintain, you know, once someone's in your database as a prospective buyer or seller, communicate with them on a reasonable frequency up until the time they either tell you they're no longer interested or they respond to you in some way to tell you what their real needs are. So stay with it. I think that persistence is one of the cornerstones of success in this business, and especially when you're broadcasting to people essentially that you're not hearing back from a lot of them, you still have to have faith that what you're doing is worthwhile and continue doing it.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things too. Is you got to have faith that with automation that you're sending them purposeful and useful information. We'll take chat questions throughout today's webinar to get Patrick's expertise. So if you have any chat questions, feel free to chat in. Christopher G, his quote, the conversation approach is definitely my preferred way and everyone's preferred way. I think one of the things you have to think about is when you are having an email dialogue back and forth, that is a conversation in today's time. It's utilizing technology in today's time. What he is thinking about, though, is it's tedious and time-consuming. So, Patrick, how do you balance this when you have many leads and high lead volume, so you're not wasting time, but you still want to be one-on-one with hundreds of prospects? How do you balance that time? I know you had mentioned automation. What are some of the things that people should be automating?
Well, you definitely should be staging prospects once they come into your universe. Typically, we'll do that by saying, when do you want to buy or sell, and in how many months do you want to do that? So you know how to communicate with them appropriately. You also want to, excuse me, guys, sorry. You definitely want to automate some of the things. There's that iPhone. It really got me. Sorry, everybody. Hey,
that's all right.
You want to automate the practical things that you need to do, the kind of housekeeping chores, and remain conversational with them, but do send them out to people, and don't be afraid to ask people questions. Invite a call back. You've got.
Yeah, I think that. Go ahead. Sorry.
Fine, Karma. I'm sorry on that, but you really just got to use judgment.
Yeah, you do have to use judgment. I think it begins, and we'll talk and we'll provide some examples of phrases and everything. But when I think you have to understand the purpose of email communication. You can email with the purpose of generating leads. I mean, you can acquire email addresses. You can actually run contests within your sphere of influence to generate leads and to generate activity and to generate contacts. Or you can utilize email with the purpose of engaging leads, like determining where are they in their process or stage of buying and selling a home. If you think about it, on average, it's about 15 months that when someone begins thinking about buying or selling a home to the actual point of turning it into a transaction and becoming a transaction. However, as they're taking 400, 450 days in that whole thought, researching, gathering, collecting real estate information category, they take less than 1 day, Patrick, to actually decide who that agent is. So having automation and having email automation to engage leads throughout that process is a must-have and vital. And when you have that automation, it saves you time, so you can actually spend time converting leads, showing homes, negotiating, and then also utilizing email automation to continue relationships with past clients.
Absolutely right about that, Kerm. You want to kind of take the housekeeping work and have that automated, and then you want to be able to focus in on the leads and prospects that you've identified as soon to convert, and spend as much time as you can getting those people in to transact with you. So CRM tools that your market leader tool is just profound in the way that it enables you to establish these kind of very 1, 2, 3 actions that take place on a weekly or monthly basis for you, and that serve to fill your pipeline with good prospects. It's just tremendous.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things that you had mentioned, Patrick, is having relevant content in an email. Obviously, as someone, instead of sending listings via the MLS in their early to mid stages of their home buying process, or in that window of opportunity, they're gathering information. 9 out of 10 consumers are obviously going online to find out what homes match their criteria. Having that automated system that automatically sends them listings, allows them to continue to search for listings on your website, is a key. I believe that the power of relevant content really determines if you appear as another face in the crowd, which means you appear as a realtor, or do you appear as unique and successful, which means that you appear as an expert of real estate or a neighborhood expert of knowledge. So really one of the keys is being able to provide relevant content with a purpose, understanding your audience, building that relationships, and so you can easily predict the answers as well. So providing relevant content in email should be and is very powerful.
It is, and it's interesting that half the audience experiences the question in their mind about what's the right content to use. And in general, what you just covered was represent yourself as a professional, position yourself as the expert. And the other thing that you can do tactically in email, you want to have your links to both your Facebook or social media sites and to your website, as well as your phone number, prominently placed in that message, so that people know that you're available on all these different channels, and that direct them towards your content that you've created with your website, et cetera, so that they really start to see you as separate from the crowd, right? And there is a longer timeline out there, but people are, they're taking their time to make a decision. So it's important that you appreciate there's always that other individual, right? The one that we can't see, but we know is there.
Yeah, and I think you had mentioned a few great points here, and I don't want anyone to miss that. Is you talked about content on website, and you talked about having a very purposeful email. It should be short, concise, with to the point. You had said connect it to social media, which we'll touch on that. But one of the things you might have mentioned too is driving that consumer, all right, that whoever that email person is, utilizing a link, so driving that consumer with that email back to your website, because your content really shouldn't be necessarily in the email, but it also could be on your website.
Correct, and that's right, Kerm. You keep the primary content on the website or the other page if it's Facebook or whatever, but let the email be the invitation, the thing that creates the concept. Hey, that's something I'd like to know more about, and let me click on that link. You can use a logo, your business logo, or your photograph, or just to click your mention to get people to do that, but you should always incorporate that in your communications to clients, absolutely.
Yeah, so one of the key points, everyone, right there, so in your piece of paper, this is one of the things I think I would implement, is what Patrick had just said, is keep it short, keep it concise, utilize it as almost a, I'll call it a linking verb, but a link to get them to your website, which is where all your content is being located. So we know that 90% of consumers are utilizing their home search online. We know today's sphere of influence is utilizing Facebook. Let's switch topics a little bit, Patrick, and let's talk about social media versus email.
Great. Can I make one point there, Kerm, before we walk off?
Please do. Yep.
The idea that we know that 9 out of 10 people are out there searching for homes. Most home buyers or sellers are on the internet, right? Well, while they're on the internet, they have their email in front of them, right? Mm-hmm. And that's just the beauty of the medium, is it's one click from that email to whatever landing page or other information you have for them. So you're in a great position of power to appreciate that the entire audience we have is now wired in. So it's incumbent on us to use this email and other channels, like we're going to talk about here, social media in a second. So that
I think that's a great point.
Well, we always hear like they're all out there. Yeah, guess what? Their email's right in front of them too. So that's the really beautiful thing about this kind of communication channel.
Yeah, plus too, email's not going to die. I think about 9 out of every, probably 95% of people out there have a smartphone, and they probably, a good chunk of them have their email connected to it. So if you send them listings that match their criteria on an automated way, you send them monthly or weekly market reports, or you have some insight, so then you reach out to them, they're going to get that immediately on that smartphone. And if you include links that drive them to your website, now you are almost boxing out your competition, because you no longer have to wonder, did they get my email? If you have a link in your email, it's short and concise, that drives them to your website, and then you use some website analytics or have a contact management system that's connected to that website that tracks and monitors behavior, you can now easily identify or know that that email was effective.
Absolutely, and you can also, with the CRM tool that is dialed into your analytics on your website, where those people came from, and that allows you to zero in on the people that are most likely to transact with you or most actively engaged at this moment, and so that helps you to focus your sales efforts even more narrowly and more effectively.
Yeah, and we've had some great chat questions in that I'm answering on the side as well. And so Tim, Tim has, I have no idea how to do that. Tim, are you utilizing automated emails or links within your email that drive them to your website? I also encourage anyone who chats in, feel free to chat in. Also, what system are you using in regard to email automation? So let's talk about social media. So everyone thinks social media is like the next big craze and it's going to, outlive email and kill email off, and I completely disagree. How do you incorporate, in your opinion, email with social media and vice versa?
Well, I think email is the foundation of all Internet communications. It was essentially the first form of communications that took place on the Internet when it was developed, and to this day, it's where people spend on the Internet on average 40% of their time in their email inboxes. So there's a big chunk of time out there that people use email effectively. It's just not going to go away because it's necessary, right? And because it does what it does so well. The social media channels that you want to integrate into that is to recognize the power of Facebook, the power of Pinterest, and other places like this where you can essentially show the world or your community who you are and what your interests are, and build relationships on those channels. But they're not the same as email in that it's not a one-to-one communication. So you don't have the benefits of that narrow conversation you can have when you finally do get to somebody personally on their personal email. But you still have this tremendous ability to advertise your own value, your knowledge. If you're sponsoring a local team in some way, shape, or form, that's something that you should be emailing out to your universe of prospects and letting them know that, hey, I'm doing this. It may not be directly related to real estate. That same thing would be done on a Facebook page, for example, and in other social channels. So we got the best of both worlds here, where we can use email as a core engine, but also take advantage of the things that Facebook and other social sites provide.
So give us a quick, we mentioned it a few times, but give our audience a few quick value propositions or knowledge ideas to be able to provide knowledge to a sphere of influence. So let's say get more eyes on that real estate professional.
Well, that's how you walk into a room full of people and you want to know who to talk to in the party, but the first thing you want to do is be noticed when you walk in the room, right? So that's the analogy that I would describe here is you need to do things to separate yourself out and to make your particular talents and abilities shine. And you don't have to be a superstar at it, but you just do need to communicate that I love this neighborhood. This town to me is just spectacular. The things that happen over in this community that so-and-so is doing is just wonderful. So, be the voice of good news for people. I think that's a cornerstone piece. Is always present yourself as enthusiastic and excited when you're dealing with your universe of people. It doesn't mean that you can't listen to people's problems, but don't ever buy what they're selling. The good news far outweighs the bad news. It just doesn't sell newspapers, but to people, they really want to be with someone who's positive and excited about what's going on in the world, and be that person, no matter how you're getting with people.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer. I think there's 3 buckets of people: navigators, survivors, and victims, and they all hang out with each other. So how do you bring someone from that survivor? Make sure that you're always appearing as that navigator and that service, that person of service, rather than a survivor or a victim of things. So, hey, one of the questions we've got in regard to, we have this third bullet point: email is a powerful tool to nurture new leads. Talk to leads in a medium that doesn't scare them off. Give us some don't do's, and then give us some must-haves in that first approach when you have a new lead, you don't know too much about it. Talk us through some examples or some must-haves and some things to avoid in regard to email content to a new lead.
Well, the first thing is that identify yourself and the community that you serve, right? So these are things you have to include. Obviously name, phone number, your broker, a link to your website. Those are cornerstones. They just have to be there. Think about adding color. Add a little color to a prospect's community they might be searching in. It could be something as simple as a photograph of a landmark in the community that everybody knows. That could be something that people would immediately recognize you and identify with you locally. Also, when you're sending out that new listing, don't just send it without any idea about what it's worth. Say, for example, hey, this is an unusual listing and it's priced below market, right? That's a value proposition. So include that statement. That's why I think it interests you. And personalize again. Say, this is why I sent this to you, right? Not to all of you, but to you. And then if you do have a first name of a contact or prospect that you're talking to, personalize that in the email. You can use some different email tools to add personalization, so you can include the first name of the recipient of each message. So even if you send 100, everybody sees their name in the inbox, and that's a real nice thing to do to get people's attention.
Yeah, and the second bullet point we have here, really what people have to avoid too is constant sales messages, and is the easiest way to scare off a lead, especially in that first impression. And you are, it's like going up to someone and probably just say, hey, do you want to go out right away, rather than having and engaging into a conversation and getting to know someone before the call to action takes place. A lot of times, people make the mistake to put that potential home buyer or home seller almost on trial. Are you pre-approved? How soon are you looking? Do you have an agent? What are you qualified for? What's your price range? What's your bedrooms, bathrooms? They're almost interviewing and interrogating versus, demonstrating some expertise, making some assumptions that they are gathering and collecting real estate information. So it's important, to not scare off leads with constant sales messaging, and especially on that first initial email or point of contact.
No, that's well said, Kermit. I didn't answer you properly about, what should you not do. Don't send them pictures of your kids right away. They don't know you, right? Don't cross the boundary line of informality, by just broadcasting, a lot about you. What you want to do is say what you've got of value, and find out if they, respond to that. But we have to assume the sale. We have to assume they're interested as a buyer or seller. So now we have to say, well, we want to explore what their needs are, but you don't do it in the first email. You just introduce yourself in that first message, right? You talk about your company and the successes that you have and how you like to help people. And those positive messages will work effectively for you. The same way that, if you seem inappropriate in a message, it'll scare people off. So just, be a little conservative about sharing personal information until you get to know people better.
Yeah, and I think one of the keys that I have picked up that you've said today is they're assessing you. So in that that's your first point of contact, that first impression. They're assessing you. It's not visual now. It's based on that email. So really a key for, our audience today is to understand that every time that you send an email, regardless if it's with blanket information or general information or specific or that first impression, they are assessing you.
That's absolutely right, and that's that part about understanding there's another person on that end of that email, right, that's going to read it. And, people are looking for people they like to work with, people that seem professional, right, people that impress them with their knowledge. So, be that person. The personal things that you add in, they come later on in the relationship, but that cornerstone first contact is thank you, thank you. Here's what I have that you requested. If I can help you in any way, I'm just pleased to do so. And thanks again. And then you leave your contact information. I think that they don't have a lot of time. Be direct, but be enthusiastic, and the world will be the path to your door.
Yeah, and I think great question here from Blaine from Blairsville, Georgia. What are some key phrases, Patrick, and/or techniques to insert in the subject line?
Again, it's relevant to the message that you're sending, right? So we receive emails every day, and we see lots of different subject lines. If you're talking to somebody for the first time, a good subject line is, here's the information you requested, and from blank, right, whoever you are, right? So that they see in that subject line right away, they're getting what they're interested in, right? It's relevant to them. Key phrases that you can use, we want to think low price just lowered, tremendous value in a great neighborhood, things like that. Those are buzzwords if it's real, right? but make sure that the subject line is advertising exactly what's in the email message so that there's no disconnect from, oh, you know, that was a misleading subject line. That's a kiss of death in terms of your legitimacy to a prospective buyer or seller. Make sure that subject line is telling the truth, but then, you know, tell it in a way that's a little snappy, right? Does that answer your question there, Tim?
Yep, I think that was a good reply. Couple additional questions. Duncan, here's a very specific question. What are the top 10 approaches to capture attention when you're sending an email blast to identify cash buyers? So I don't think we can do the top 10 approaches, but maybe a quick approach when sending an email blast to identify cash buyers?
Well, again, that would probably go back to the subject line, right? You would say something like, you know, great opportunities for cash buyers, right? People would see that and recognize, you know, those in that audience that are in that category would identify with it immediately.
Yep. And what about sending market statistics for the area that they're searching in? Appropriate? When is it appropriate? At the beginning of a relationship, an email, or do you have to gather enough information before sending that? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know what you think about that, Kern, but I don't want to blast people with information that they may or may not need.
Yep.
You know, I want to be informative to them. So I think you have to do that needs exploration piece in the first, second, or third communication with them. And then, you know, you can tell people, ask them, what would you like to know? And a lot of people will check that off and tell you. So
I think
you don't want to appear to just be using a shotgun approach in your marketing to people. Again,
yep.
because they're individuals, right, even though we are doing it on a group basis.
Yeah, I'm right on the same page with you. I think you have to be, that first impression and several emails, you have to be in gather mode just as much as that consumer is in gather mode collecting real estate information. You should be in gather mode collecting information about that lead. I think before you can turn that lead into an actual contact, which before it could even become a buyer and seller, it has to be a contact, is you have to be in gather mode. And I think being able to take those first couple of not interviewing, but gathering some information with some good open-ended questions and call to actions, maybe driving them to your website using links. You're utilizing those first couple of emails to collect information as well, because if you reach out to consumers via email or any way that aren't looking for you, it will cause negative feelings, and now you've ruined that relationship. Now they are no longer going to read or click on your email. So maybe sending market analysis or inventory trends or anything like that to a consumer where it might not be a good fit in their process, I think is a no-go.
Yeah, you're absolutely, you know, you're right, Kermit, and that's a judgment piece, you know. We really are just trying to get people to know us, right? It's not the people that we know, it's the people that know us that help to make us successful. So let's give people a reason to know us, right? And the more you can, you know, the more you can give people what they want, without feeling them getting the feeling that you're kind of greedy or you're needy, right? You know, you want to have that confident pose all the time. Hey, life is great, the kids are great, business is doing good. You know, that may not be the situation every day, but if you get up and you put that in your mind before you reach out to people, you know, they like to hear good news. They like to meet somebody who's got a great attitude. So, you know, you really want to do that. And I'm sorry for getting a field on that, but that's my personal feeling.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, too, is I have visuals in my head. I think every time you email, or especially as a real estate professional, your number one job is to kind of be the co-pilot, like sitting next to them. You're guiding and steering. You're not controlling the airplane. And so in those emails, you are anticipating what their real questions are, providing them those answers to those real questions, and then helping them through their thinking and their thought process of buying and selling a home or collecting and gathering real estate information. So in those emails, appear as if you're a co-pilot guiding and steering and helping the process, not creating a hurdle.
That's well said.
What are your thoughts on demographics? So, you know, you have millennials, people I think who, when they were born, they had a smartphone or a laptop next to them, or Gen X, you know, those people who have now embracing and utilizing technology, or baby boomers. I heard a statistic yesterday, 10,000 on a daily basis, 10,000 baby boomers are retiring, and then you have your traditionalists. When is a good response rate back from emails, and then based on demographics, and then what are your thoughts on different types of emails? Is there one demographic that it doesn't work? Is there a demographic that it really works? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, a couple of questions here. So the world is composed of different strata of people or different segments in this audience, and we know and love them, right? And
Yep.
we know where our business, lies, right? Do we relate really well to young people? Often if you're younger, you will, right? Because you understand your audience. People that are retiring, you're a little bit older. You walk that walk with them. It's much easier to relate to them. So you may find more of those people in your customer base. That's not to say you shouldn't reach across to a millennial if you're 55 years old, but you don't want to pretend to be a millennial when you're 55. They'll understand that. So I think the conversation is to just appreciate people, who they are, where they are, and then if you can reach people, like if you look around at kids and they always have their phones in front of them, 20-somethings, think about you're going to be communicating with them on a mobile channel. So when you send them an email, make sure that email is real brief and can be viewed well on a mobile phone, right? So that they're going to see just a little bit of what you send them right away. But remember, you're going to be communicating with them on that channel all the time. So don't abuse it by trying to overuse it or pour too much information into a message.
And I think you might have just answered this question, don't abuse it, because I think that's a trap that agents fall into often, is finding that right balance. They're either afraid and they just completely stop, or they abuse it and do too much. Stephanie's question, do we continue asking the same question if the lead doesn't respond, or should we ask something different with each email?
So just let me refine that. Refine that for me again, Kerm, because if I understand you right, people's question is, what's the right frequency? Do I want to spray and pray, or do I want to focus in? Is that the kind of?
I think that is the right question. Correct. So frequency frequency overall, and then maybe frequency of the same type of email.
Yeah, I wouldn't send the same type of email too frequently to people because it'll just dial them out from looking at it. You really want to give them something fresh, whether it's informational or text or a photograph of a new property or something like that. Those are always good reasons to reach out to people. You can't do it every day. People don't want to hear from you every day. They do want to hear from you, on a weekly basis if they're actively pursuing buying or selling. If they're just exploring the market, they maybe want to hear from you every couple of weeks to a month. But whenever they hear from you on email, they want it to be something that's really, hey, it's interesting and it's useful. So, you'll use a little judgment here, but there's no sense just trying to, keep blasting people out, because you'll do more damage than good if that's the case. But don't hesitate or be afraid. Like, if someone responds in negative and says, don't email me anymore, well, that's not your whole audience. That's just one individual, and fine, you don't email them anymore. You give them exactly what they want. Some people just reverse to emailing you, and you get some crazy responses from people at times. But you have to remember, most people see it as a fruitful, productive way to communicate with other people. But again, you wouldn't call your friends every 15 minutes, right? So
yeah, exactly. And we want a response right away, too, in our audience. So in part two, we're talking concepts here. We're talking high level. We're talking a few things that you can implement and things to avoid. Part two, Patrick, that I will be doing next Tuesday is I'm actually going to provide specific emails. I'm going to be able to provide. I talk often about a prescriptive plan of attack, like what to do in the first 7 days, what to send, what not to send, to be able to gather and collect information about that lead. So now you can be able to provide the relevant content that's appropriate, with the purpose being turning that lead into a content or to a contact. So those agents on today's webinar, if you're interested, you'll be able to be invited to part two, which will be, it'll be in the weeds, Patrick. We'll actually do some how-tos and take specific scenarios and be able to provide people with their specific plan of attack for listing leads as well as buyer leads. This would be an example of, when a consumer is gathering and searching for listings, it's okay to send them kind of an email like this in regard to listing, an update. But let's talk about branding email. What's your opinion on frequency, or what do you think of something like this in regard to, hey, FYI, it's spring forward. Really the purpose of this isn't really to notify them that, set your clocks ahead, but it's a branding thing. What are your thoughts on how often, frequency-wise, to send branding type of emails?
Yeah, I'd be careful with this. I would not overdo it, but I would make it tied to events like this, like daylight savings time. Everyone needs a reminder on it multiple times. So this is a real good thing to do. I wouldn't be sending out the weekly TV schedule to people, but I would look for things that are important, like holidays coming up. If you have birthday notices with people, they're really good to do that for branding. So just wish, and this is a really proven strategy in a lot of sole proprietorships and small businesses, which is to treat your customer as an individual, get that birthday date, and send them something on their birthday to let them know you remembered them. So just tie it to events around you. But, it's not like you're Macy's and you want to have a different sale every week, right? So
Yeah,
just
exactly.
be judicious about it.
Yeah, so I like that, tying your branding around type of events. What about this email example that we found, kind of that auto response, which I have seen often for real estate professionals? Probably a no-go on this.
Well, I think it's just too much copy. You're just seeing too much too soon. It's hard to find anything in there to pull out, right? And it's well written and it's nice, and it includes some good information about the professional. But I don't think people want to read that much. I think you got to give them a couple of logo pictures of your credentials, and just give them a big hello, and not bury them in stuff that they're going to say, oh, I don't have time to read that, right? Because again,
yeah,
kind of post-literate generation now, where we get so much visual information that we're constantly looking for images, and not reading as much text.
What do you think about sending, Donna wants to know, what do you think about sending an email like happy birthday to them?
I think it's an excellent idea if you know them, and that, you have been in touch with them. It's not something you can obviously do first time out, but if anybody in your universe who you have that birthday date on, you absolutely should send them a greeting.
Hey, here's a couple of great questions from Stephanie and Brenda. Stephanie, a lot of leads get into our emails and our spam. Any tips of advice? But Brenda follows this up with what keywords trigger emails to go into the recipient's spam, and are those keywords in the subject line or the body of the email that triggers it?
Okay, so let me answer that second question first. So the things, the catchwords or phrases are the same things that you would understand that would be problematic in your own inbox, right? Dollar signs, the word free, casino, all those irrelevant kind of things that just make us all stand back a little bit and not want to push that, open button. You really have a chance to get your leads into your own. I'm sorry if I'm unclear. This was the question: do we get our own leads into?
How do you avoid emails into the spam folder? And then also, is it going into spam because of the words in the subject, the body, or both?
So that's the problem, right? That's we all face every day. That's how people control their own email inboxes. Some of them manage them well, and they get the communications through they want. I think you just have to be absolutely crystal clear in your subject line about why you're writing to somebody and why it has value to them. You can't control their inbox, but in general, you want to hit on the averages, you want to get into most people's inbox most of the time. You're not going to be able to prevent getting into some spam boxes. A lot of people will use a reminder in their emails, their first email to somebody, to add my name to your inbox so that we're approved, right, as an approved resender. And that's a key thing you can include in your outbound email messages if you're experiencing that problem. Add us to your address book as an approved sender. That will solve the problem for you.
In your opinion, that's a good idea, correct?
Yes, and as much as possible that you can control that. That will let people know, hey, there's a problem. I'm not seeing your mail, right? And it's the most frustrating thing in an age when we expect immediate emails to not be able to find them in our boxes. But oftentimes that's where they are, in the spam box, because they weren't approved.
When do you do that? Does it matter? I mean, as soon as possible?
I would do it on the first contact. You know, if you're sending someone an email, put a little reminder line in there to say, add me to your approved sender list. Add me as an approved sender, or right-click to add me to your address book. Those things will just save you a lot of misery down the road, and it also gives people a heads up, hey, that's something I should do. So you're trying to remedy a situation you can't completely control, but I would put that reminder in there repeatedly to people in all of your emails to them until you know that they have you as an approved sender.
Any thoughts on what a good open rate is or click-through rate?
Well, you know, a lot of that depends on the audience and the message you're sending, but if you're sending out to a universe of 300 to 500 prospects in your universe, for example, you know, any given message you send to them, somewhere between 5 and 10% of those people are going to open them just because that arrived in their inbox when they were in front of their computer and was in the top 10 list of messages that they were looking at that time. The challenge is, you know, when you send email, you're going to see a big pop in your open rates in the first hour, and then it tails off after that first, second, or third hour, and that's just the nature of the beast. So your 5 to 10% rate should be, you know, reasonable. If you're getting that kind of open rate, you should be real satisfied.
Yeah, along with frequency is the time you actually send the email. Like if you think about email send at 7 a.m., you're at the top of the inbox. Email like around 11:30 in the morning when people maybe at work could be checking personal email during lunch period of time. So the time of day you send emails are very important, I believe, as well.
Absolutely right. You know, think about the U.S. Post Office not delivering mail on Saturday. You know, what does that mean, right? That's, well, do we want to deliver our mail, you know, email to somebody at 7 a.m. on Saturday morning? Probably not, right? But during the week, you know, that 5 to 8 hours is considered the magic consumer hour for email. So that's a real good time if you need to get to people. A lot of them are looking for email in those 3-hour periods.
Yeah, exactly. That's like the best time to post on Craigslist as well. So we have had a lot of people who have chatted about specific targeting emails, such as recruiting agents via email or short sales. I think what Patrick's, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but Patrick's expertise and opinion is you utilize that very targeted email in the subject line. So it's not necessarily about the body, it's about the subject line. There's a couple of people, actually Michael just asked what's the best time to email or post on Craigslist. On Craigslist, I believe there's 2 times. I think it's around 11 to 11:30 in the morning, and then I do believe it's around 7 to 7:30 at night is the best time to post on Craigslist, and then you appear at the top. Let's see what, like Blaine had talked about being able to target physician buyers, potential buyers. Same thing, you want to use your subject line to target that. Crystal about short sales, use your subject line. Interesting thing here, Troy uses like Constant Contact and MailChimp, which are his venues for working with thousands of email addresses, but he feels like the open rate is poor. Do you have any suggestions? Change probably subject line, right?
Well, yeah, it's subject line too, but there's an inverse relationship between the amount of mail you're sending and the % open rate you're going to get. So if you have a big universe of people that you might be broadcasting to, you're probably sending more generalized messages to them just because of the nature of the audience. And I'm just going to assume that. I could be wrong. But I do think that if you are sending a lot of messages, thousands of emails out to your universe, people's needs are so diverse that, you know, you're just going to get a smaller % overall that are going to have want to open that. You could also look at your subject line relative to spam checking and make sure you're not putting words in there or dollar signs in there or prices in there. Things like that will trap email in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I think the key too is what is the goal of that email? If you're sending thousands of emails, are you hoping for phone calls? Are you hoping to drive them? I mean, I call that kind of suspects. And in fact, let me go to another slide here. I look at this. I love this funnel because often real estate professionals, when their goal when they get a lead is to move them right into a transaction bucket rather than having a contact management system that kind of can manage their leads and accelerate and provide them with information. I look at 1,000 emails as suspects or visitors, and what my goal should be to turn them into leads, not into transactions. I don't think it's necessarily a phone call. So one of the keys too is make it educational in that subject line, have a link in there. I believe drive them to your website, provide them with content, provide them with knowledge. I think your website, you have two goals. One, it's got to generate leads, and two, it's got to educate and provide knowledge and information to your contacts. So one of the things Troy, I challenge you on is, what's your goal on sending out emails to 1,000 people?
You know, I love your graphic here. This is just the classic, sales funnel. And that when you say, like, you want to go from lead to transaction, what you're doing, you're saying, I want to talk about my needs, not your needs, to the customer, right, or the prospect. And you don't want to have that conversation inappropriately. You kind of nailed it on the head right there.
Yeah. So let's take a few more chat questions in, and then for those people who are not familiar with Market Leader, and we want to thank Market Leader for being able to provide the opportunity to speak with Patrick. Market Leader has been in business for about 13 years now, Patrick. They work closely with your Realty Insider. I believe that they do a very nice job of providing one-on-one coaching and expert training. They provide daily and weekly live webinars and workshops and power hours. They do provide real estate professionals, both teams, entire offices, and individual real estate agents with exclusive leads, both on the buyer side and on the listing side. They come in packages of 10, 20, 30, 40 that are guaranteed each and every month. Full business solution, meaning that they provide a website that generates leads, that's attached to a contact management system. They have ongoing email campaigns, a full marketing center of over 4,000 flyers, templates, emails, virtual tours, single property websites, full website analytics, so tools to market yourself as well. So we want to thank Market Leader for being able to provide the opportunity to interview and take advantage of some of Patrick's goals as well. Patrick, we are recording this. Some of the people have asked about this. We'll send out a recording for everyone who's on there. I think it's key to understanding what your gross commission goal is. So for those consumers out there, that's what they're thinking about as well. If you're a real estate professional who needs more leads into your funnel, Market Leader can help you on that as well. Matt's question is, the mail program he uses shows how spammy his emails are. Does Market Leader have this feature? The answer is yes. Another Michael question, how often should a new contact receive an email?
Well, again, it's dependent on the query, right? I wanted information about this property, so you respond appropriately to that, and then you follow up like you would in a few days and say, did you see that? Was that of interest to you? And then, if they don't respond to you, don't just assume they're not interested, but just don't blast them either. Say, okay, I'm going to put them on my weekly file. I'll send them an email once a week, or I'll send them every other week. There's a pretty good frequency loops for people that don't annoy them and that you keep them in your universe of prospects. So, hey, I wanted to say something to you. You talked about this webinar next week and getting into the weeds, and I'll tell you, anybody who's listening today, we've talked, like you said, top line a lot about how this stuff works. But next week's going to be tremendous because you're going to give some real hard examples and outline all the detailed ways that you can use this email tool effectively with Market Leader. So I encourage anybody who's interested in it, make sure you sign up for that next week when you see that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think the three things, Patrick, I'm going to cover is, one is how do you capture the lead's contact information. So I'm going to talk about the value proposition, which value proposition to use, how to connect, how to enable the consumer to connect directly with you and reach back out to you, and then how often you should email. I think it's based on the frequency, or it's based on the content, so that's purposeful. I'll teach people how to which emails to send when. That's purposeful. When do you include the MLS information in? I'll provide some examples of that as well. So for those people who want to be a part two as well. Any final questions from anyone? Feel free to chat those in right now. Linda has a question. She appears to be very good at content, Patrick. She receives tens and tens of emails every day returning. What ideas do you have to keep track of everyone? what some of the, like I assume she's looking for a contact management system. She's probably utilizing Outlook. There's several out there. What are some companies out there that she can use in regard to contact management system? And you can name any of them.
Well, I would, but I honestly think market leaders are tops in CRM. And you've gone from working in, a list on a piece of paper to a spreadsheet on a computer, but the software CRM tool that allows you to manage thousands of contacts, nobody does it better than market leader. You could go to a database management piece like ACT or Goldmine, but, those guys are kind of like dinosaurs now. You really need somebody managing the software on the other side all the time and adding improvements into it that enable you to see your prospects' activities on as much a real-time basis as possible so you can respond appropriately or quickly. And again, market leader is my favorite in that.
Walt's got a great question here. If you do not get a reply from your initial email, what are your thoughts on entering them into a drip email campaign? If so, how long do you wait until doing that? And then do you have any experience with drip emails, any success with drip emails, or any comments or suggestions?
Yeah, I absolutely think you should include them in it. I think you just should segment them in a way so that that list or group of people that have never responded to you, say, what are you going to give them? You're going to give them 90 days to respond to you? If they haven't responded in 90 days, they may have gone away or lost complete interest. But I would do that. I would be generous in the amount of time you allow yourself to communicate with them. And limit the frequency to that group to maybe every couple of weeks or so. If they're not responding to you, don't ignore them. But, after 3 months' time, your time is more valuable than theirs. So take care of your time and move on to somebody else.
Yeah, I think if you have enough people in your pipeline, one lead or one contact doesn't matter.
Absolutely. And, if you need 15 or 20 transactions this year, extrapolate that out to how many leads you need. And then figure out, where you're going to get those leads from, and then work those leads, right? That's absolutely right.
I have a program here that I do every Monday morning. It's the $1 Million Pipeline program, and I teach people how to, the number of leads that they need in their funnel. And we actually work, and every week we teach people how to generate those leads into their funnel, and then we walk them through the prescriptive 7-day plan of attack. So it's quite enjoyable to work with those agents on a one-on-one basis. The other great question, I know we're up on time, but is it appropriate and safe to include your picture with emails?
Generally it is. I would say generally it is. I'm a big fan of pictures. Pictures worth 1,000 words. Send them a picture. Don't talk to them too much. But, a nice picture is fine, and you showed an example of it earlier. It's just absolutely right. People want to know who they're dealing with. There used to be a fear of sending attachments and emails like pictures, but that's pretty much gone away. Most people view images immediately when it hits their inbox.
Yeah, and then if you, quick, they visualize it. I'm a firm believer, maybe 1 or 2 power sentences, a link that drives them to your website, because you want to eliminate them from having to go to another search engine when you've piqued their interest. I think often in email content, then what? Like, you pique their interest, what's a consumer going to do if you don't have a link in there? They're probably going to go back to Google or Bing or Yahoo or their favorite search engine because you piqued their interest about a concept or an idea about real estate. They're going to go find that answer somewhere else because today's consumer isn't necessarily going to pick up the phone or email return right away. So utilizing that email to drive them to your website, I think, is a key, and some of the things we'll actually discuss and show in part 2.
Yeah, and let me make one point on that because that's so dead on. Call to action in the email. You've sent them something. You told them something fascinating. Hey, what do you say? Go to our website or email me, right? But make a call to action a little bit larger so people can see it so that once you got them excited, they know what to do next, right? Absolutely.
Perfect. So if you're interested in the Market Leader system or just want to see a live demonstration, the Market Leader system website, IDX, True IDX, connected to a contact management system, along with the Marketing Center and all the live daily and one-on-one coaching. That's only $99 a month. You can call if you're an agent. You can call the phone number, which is 888-820-4778. If you're on the lookout and you want more potential buyer leads or listing leads that come directly to you. There's no middleman, so they go directly to you. Their market leader's running a special for the agents that are on today's webinar. That's $99 as well. So regardless, our main idea today was to be able to provide you with a few concepts, a few ideas to implement in your business regarding the email. I think we're very fortunate to be able to have Patrick Boland, who's the president of Your Realty Insider, here, and be able to have him share some of his expertise in regard to email. Some of the concepts I've taken away, obviously not abusing it, being able to predict their answers, building relationships, and understanding frequency as well. So Patrick, thanks. Any final words, thoughts, anything?
Now, it's great to be on with you, Kerm. Thank you, and thanks everybody for listening. We really appreciate you being here.
You're welcome. Thanks, Patrick. Have a great rest of your week. If you guys want to be take advantage of part 2, we will call in. We'll register you for